Welcome, everyone. I call the December 1st City Council meeting to order. Councilmember Ray has an excused absence this evening. Councilmember Ray's term does end on December 31st, and I was really excited to have the chance to thank Councilmember Ray for his service at our November Services, Safety, and Parks Committee meeting. So as a reminder, we continue to have a remote aspect to our meetings, and both staff and members of the public may be participating in tonight's meeting remotely via WebEx. So the next item on our agenda this evening is the Pledge of Allegiance, and I invite you to join. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. So we did just have an election, and the next item of business this evening, we will be swearing in for City Council position number 6. Council position number 6 became vacant in January of this year when Victoria Hunt was appointed to the state legislature. The City Council then appointed Kelly Zhang to position number 6 in February. Kevin Nichols ran for position number 6 in the general election and won. He will now serve the remainder of Victoria Hunt's unexpired term through December 31st, 2027. Because the community has now elected someone to fill this vacant position, he's being sworn in early, and the other council members who were elected at the November general election will be sworn in after their terms begin on January 1st. So I'm going to invite Kevin over to the lectern here, and we will do the oath of office. So please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I state your name.
I, Kevin Nichols,
Having been duly elected
to
the City of Issaquah, Council position number 6.
Council position number 6,
Term expiring December 31st, 2027.
term expiring December 31st, 2027,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will faithfully and impartially
that I will faithfully and impartially
discharge the duties of this office
discharge the duties of this office
as prescribed by law
as prescribed by law
and to the best of my ability,
and to the best of my ability,
and that I will support and maintain
and that I will support and maintain
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution and laws of the State of Washington
and the Constitution and laws of the State of Washington
and all local ordinances.
and all local ordinances.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
So Kevin will be seated and participating in tonight's meeting. This one? This one for the clerk. And this one for you. Congratulations.
Can I get a picture? We should get a picture with the.
Kevin, do you want to come up in front of the city council?
There you go. Take a break.
So there's a lot of recognition tonight. The next item on the agenda is ID 1926, the recognition of myself and Councilmember Hall. Zach, do you want to join me over there so I can talk about you first? So this is very fun and exciting for me to get to talk about Zach. I'm going to talk a little about his service and then some personal memories I have of working with him. So Zach sat on Issaquah City Council position number 2 for 5 years, 2020 through 2025. He served as Deputy Council President during that time, the Planning, Development, and Environmental Council Committee Chair, and the East Side Fire and Rescue Board. There are 9 or 10 other meetings that Zach attended regularly throughout the region to make sure that Issaquah was at important tables where important decisions were being made about our community. So I'm very pleased to present Councilmember Hall with a plaque from the city in gratitude for his 6 years of service to our city council and to thank him for all the time, energy, and effort he put into his work to ensure that we continue to provide the high-quality services that the Issaquah community expects. As many of you may know, Zach and I first met 9 years ago while he was completing his studies at the University of Washington and looking for some public sector work. It feels like a long time ago, doesn't it? Yeah, it does. He was my campaign manager in 2017 in my first run for mayor, as well as Representative Callan's campaign manager a year or so later. Zach then joined Representative Callan as a legislative aide in Olympia, and when that work was complete, threw his hat in the ring for an Issaquah City Council member position. During his service in Issaquah, he also completed his master's in public administration. Is it Foster School? The Evans School, I knew I had it wrong, at the Evans School at the University of Washington, a degree that significantly deepened his understanding of local government and public sector work. While I am sad he is leaving our city for now, I know that there are opportunities for him here anytime he desires to work locally again. Councilmember Hall has served as one of the most humble council members I have ever met. Recently, when talking about what humble leadership means at a candidate forum, I referenced several traits, and I will share those with you now with regard to Zach's service to this community. Humility in political leadership includes admitting mistakes, actively listening to the community and staff members, giving credit to others, seeking and accepting feedback, and collaborating to solve problems. A humble public servant maintains an open mind, fosters a culture of continuous improvement and mutual respect, and demonstrates that true leadership stems from service and self-awareness rather than personal ego. It means prioritizing the community's needs by honing your listening skills versus speaking at constituents so that you're able to distill the community's collective concerns and issues. It means assuming you don't know what you don't know yet, and therefore asking lots and lots of questions is important. Over many coffee shop meetings, Zach and I have discussed and debated a policy development process over and over again. Rather than picking an idea and working around to describe what problem it might solve, we talked about allowing enough time to define the problem, collect the data, and examine the many alternative ideas. That you need to use criteria to evaluate, to contrast and compare these ideas so that they can be evaluated and proposed for implementation. Also, that outcomes are the true measure of success, and ensuring that there are measurements established to ensure that those desired benefits are achieved by this community. This is the process. Zach also has a copy. However, I have to give him the new one because it's been modified a little bit based on one of our last coffee conversations. But it's a process that allows you to really be that voice for your community, to really dig in and really understand what would make a difference. It requires a great deal of humility and patience to create policy this way. And Councilmember Hall has always brought both of these traits to the table, to complete his work in a manner that is thorough, thoughtful, well-vetted, and measurable to ensure our community is getting the outcomes they deserve. Councilmember Hall, you will be truly missed, not only in this room, but at all the other tables throughout our region where you represented our council and our community. You have demonstrated over and over again what a community leader and humble public servant can do to help their communities thrive. Thank you for all your service, my friend. That was our recreation.
Appreciate it.
Okay, thanks.
I also have some thoughts to share about you. Well, it's certainly my honor to speak about Mayor Pauly tonight. I won't be as, well, I'll just say I'm not sure if I'm completely deserving of all those very nice remarks. I appreciate that. I won't be as, I don't have as much to say because we have a lot of opportunities to thank you for your incredible service to Issaquah in the coming days. I know there's a big event that everyone should come to. When is it? The 8th? Is that right? To celebrate everything about you, and I hope that we see a lot of community there as well. But I did want to say this. Mary Lou's time as mayor has had an incredible impact on our city. There's no doubt about that. Now, she will be the first person to admit that she couldn't have done any of it without the help of many, many others. But progress starts with the tone set by our leaders. I think we can all agree on that. And what I find most remarkable about the tone that you have set, Mary Lou, is consistency. You have this reflex, this instinct to step out of however you might feel about a particular issue and ask, what does the community want? No issue too big or too small to put community at the center of decision making. That's the tone that you set during your time as mayor. That focus, that commitment you brought with you into the mayor's office is the very foundation of our government now. The questions that we ask as a council, that staff ask when they're producing memos and engaging with community, stems from your leadership and the tone that you set around that. And to me, beyond your more obvious and visible achievements, I think of the Bergsma acquisition, I think of the strategic plan, guiding the city through a pandemic, bringing in new leaders and professionalizing our workforce. That's your legacy, asking what does the community want and how do we bring them into the process. So on behalf of the city of Issaquah and the Issaquah City Council, it's an honor to present you with this plaque and to thank you for your many, many years of service to the Issaquah community. Yeah, I'll have to frame that one.
That was very fun. And again, in all seriousness, thank you, Councilmember Hall. We expect great things from you heading up to the state legislature. We are going to take a short recess because we know we have many family members in the room that may not be staying for all the really thrilling, enticing work items that we have coming up. So we'll take a 5-minute recess, and then we'll get back here at about 7:20. Thanks. Okay, everyone, I think we are back on. Yes, thank you, Tim. So thank you for taking a little recess. That's helpful for those that didn't want to stay for the rest of the information. We're going to move into the next item, which is ID 1930. It's an informational update on the asset management system update. And Deputy City Administrator Andrea Leonard is coming to the lectern. Welcome, Andrea.
Thank you, Mayor Pauly. Good evening, City Council. I'm Andrea Leonard, Deputy City Administrator. And with me here tonight, we have a bunch of staff to help present the next item. I'd really just like to call a couple of you up to the podium since we won't all fit crammed behind here. So if Gus, Brian, and Roma could come up, please. These are folks who've been working very hard, very long hours on this project, which is the asset management project. And here tonight, thanks guys, here tonight, I wanted to provide an informational update on where we are with our asset management program and also celebrate the completion of the launch of our policies and software for this program. And so starting off, can we have all of the staff who are here tonight who helped support this program, who worked many hours on this project, could you please stand? And just show us who you are. Thank you. Thank you, guys. So this particular project, these updates to our asset management program, is something that's highlighted in the strategic plan. Under the infrastructure goal, it calls out this work specifically to develop and implement an organization-wide asset management policy, program, and financial plan to ensure sound stewardship of city assets. After 3 years and hundreds of hours of work from over 200 staff members, in addition to the staff being recognized tonight, we have done just that. Before this effort, every department had a different approach to managing and maintaining assets. Policies guiding this work were few and far between and also differed among departments. So with this effort, we brought all of the departments, Public Works, Parks, Admin Services, including Facilities, and Finance, under the same set of policies and the same new software system called Cartograph. This system takes our asset management work out of our heads, stray Post-it notes around the office and random spreadsheets into one system, one GIS-based system that is integrated with our C-Click-Fix program and our financial system. So we can better plan and prepare for the cost of maintenance and adjust our maintenance approach to the actual needs of the city through robust data that just wasn't available to us before. This has been a large project to change how we do business. Now that we have one set of policies and one software tool, we can continue to find more efficiencies and better manage the public assets. Here is a little video I'd like to show which highlights a few of the benefits we're already seeing.
The asset management software called Cartograph over the last 4 years was a major focus by all departments throughout the city, particularly Public Works, Parks, and Facilities, to better manage their assets and track expenses and hours put into the maintain those assets. So with Cartograph, we'll be able to track our equipment costs, labor costs. I mean, we'll be able to track everything down to, you know, the leaf blower, the mower, even the rechargeable batteries that we use for our equipment to know how much we're using those pieces of equipment and how much the true costs are for maintaining our city parks. Another way we're using Cartograph in the aftermath of the bomb cyclone is we've tracked all of our storm damage with the trees that were damaged during the storm. And obviously there's still stumps out there, so we have all those stumps on a GIS layer now that we'll be able to input into Cartograph, identify them, and then move forward with creating work orders and tasks to remove those stumps and then replant trees as we continue into this fall.
Cartograph's an extremely powerful tool, and we've been able to use it to augment our flushing program in water operations. Flushing is done on a routine basis to freshen up water in low flow areas of the system. Previously, that was all done on paper, and all the data was collected and put into an Access database. Now we're able to use the power of GIS to both optimize our routing, figure out areas of the system where CIP projects have improved flow, and we can also trend and analyze trends on the data that we collect concerning water quality parameters. So it's been a really, really easy way for us to reduce the time that we're spending on it and improve the efficacy of the program overall.
This year during Salmon Days, we were able to use Cartograph to track our time, materials, labor. In the past, we never really had that option. We would kind of just use Excel spreadsheets, do our best to guesstimate time and the equipment costs. So this year was really nice. We were able to capture the true cost of equipment because those are all inputted into a Cartograph and track our labor, materials, and get a real accurate cost of how much our department spent for Salmon Days.
I've enjoyed being a part of the process, and I'm very appreciative that the city entrusted us to help them with this journey. It is a very large change. It's a change from the way things have always been done to being able to go to a new modernized system and a way of managing assets that is really going to allow the city to be able to plan the work that they're doing, to be able to track that work and report on it. So that way you can show the community all of the great things that all of your staff are able to do.
One of the big aspects that we identified as we went through this process is that, yeah, if we're going to select a unified piece of software, then we should move together as a unit, as the city, to do that work. And so, Public Works had their own management system called HAL, and then Parks was doing it just via spreadsheets for the most part, as was Facilities. So we kind of had different systems going on that weren't compatible with each other and weren't compatible with our new system. So we all identified change management as something that we should focus on, as well as implementing this software so that we move together unified into the future with this piece of software.
So that video gave a few examples of some of the benefits we're already seeing from this work. And the reason why we wanted to bring this update before you tonight is because it is work that has impacted all the city departments, big changes for us in doing things very differently, and has been largely invisible to you and to members of the public over the past several years. So we wanted to take this opportunity to thank you, City Council, for placing this as a priority on the strategic plan, for the budget to do this work, the staffing to do this work, because we do believe it's delivering great benefits already. So thank you very much also to the staff who've worked tirelessly over the past few years to make it happen and improve the way that we do business. Are there any questions?
I am not seeing any questions, but if you could get the staff to stand again, I would just love to express all of our gratitude again for this. I think Councilmember Hall said it really well, this absolute professionalization of our operations and such a big and heavy lift. I would love for our staff to stand up and we give you a round of applause again. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Andrea. Next item on our agenda this evening is audience comments. Members of the public may address the council at this time, both in person or virtually. Those who signed up in advance to make comments will be called on first. And if you're joining us virtually and would like to make comments, raise your virtual hand or send our host a chat message. If you're on the phone, press *3. If you joined by computer or smartphone, look for a hand icon. And if you're in the room and you did not sign up, I will ask for other speakers before closing this portion of the meeting. City Clerk, has anyone signed up to speak for general audience comments?
Yes.
So if you're making comments this evening, you're invited to address the council regarding matters that are directly related to Issaquah's programs, projects, services, or events. Comments related to political campaigns are not permitted. I guess I could have dropped that line. Please direct comments to the whole council and not individuals. And while this is not a question and answer session, we will follow up with you if needed. When you are recognized, if you are virtual, please unmute your microphone. If you're in the room, please step up to the lectern in the center of the room. There is a button on the base that allows you to turn on the microphone and you will see a red light. State your name, address, and relationship to the city. Speak clearly and pause frequently, and please limit your comments to 5 minutes. If you're attending virtually and you do not respond after your name or phone number is called or your connection is lost unexpectedly, the meeting will need to proceed, and you're encouraged to rejoin us if you can. Personal attacks, obscene language, derogatory remarks, and disruptive behavior will not be permitted. Public comments, written and verbal, are an important aspect of the public process, and the city takes comments seriously. We thank you all for taking the time to address us. City Clerk, do you want to call up the first person on the list?
Yes, Joan Wallace, who's joining us virtually.
Welcome, Joan.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. My name is Joan Wallace. I reside at 5323 154th Avenue Southeast in Bellevue. And the reason I'm speaking to you tonight, even though this is Issaquah, is that I serve on the board of directors of Acres of Diamonds, and I am chairing their capital campaign. So before I get into my remarks regarding Acres of Diamonds, I'd first like to thank all of you for your service. I come from a family that has long been involved in community and public service, and I personally have co-chaired 5 different Bellevue City Council campaigns in the past. My son Kevin served 2 terms on the Bellevue City Council and also was deputy mayor. So I know firsthand what it takes to do what you're doing. All the hours of doorbelling and campaigning, and then you're the lucky dog that caught the fire truck. And now you get to sit and listen to people like me when you have this full schedule of things to get done. So I will move forward quickly with the comments that I have to make regarding the subject at hand. So I know that you, like me, are very concerned about homelessness and its growth in our greater Seattle area. And I wanted to share with you why I chose the mission of serving on the board of directors of Acres of Diamonds and attempting to raise $12.5 million. First of all, as a woman of faith, I believe I'm called to help people find a better path. And like you, I'm concerned about the growing homeless situation. I can't fix this problem, but by helping raise $12.5 million, I can help 24 more families find a real path to success. And that little bit is important to me because it's something that I can do. Acres of Diamonds is really a special place because it treats people with dignity, compassion, and respect. We raise the bar for these young moms and inspire them to find the courage to learn, to change, and to succeed. All of us have had the experience of having someone in our lives who believe in us. And when these young women come to Acres of Diamonds with their little ones, they have a whole team of people who believe in them and give them the tools they need and watch them go forward with confidence and succeed and become successful. Acres of Diamonds is a little different because it's not about heads and bids. It's about creating lasting generational change. My prayer is that every child who comes under our roof will never again experience homelessness, violence, or trauma. And the results of our program speak for themselves. 5 years after graduation, 92% of our families are still sober and self-sufficient. I want to thank you again for your service to the Issaquah community, and I know that you too care about the underserved because you are here tonight doing what you're doing. Thanks again.
Thank you, Joan. City Clerk, the next person on the list.
Yes, Stacy Goodman.
So don't cut me off, because I got the all clear from, from City Administrator Bob Kowitz about the topic that is on the agenda tonight, which is a recognition. Good evening. Good evening, Mayor Pauly and Mayor-elect Mullet. A hearty congratulations to you and council, and congratulations to Councilmember Hall for your next chapter. That's very exciting. So this is a very momentous night. I'm excited to be here tonight. We are honored to celebrate a one-of-a-kind public servant, which is our own Mayor Pauly, as this is her last council meeting as mayor. Her dedication to serving our community is truly remarkable. She and her husband Carl brought their young family here from Canada in 1993, and just 1 year later, Mary Lou was appointed to the Development Commission, where she served for 19 years, until 2013, when she was elected to the City Council, and then in 2017, she was elected mayor. But her public service began way before 1994. In her earlier career, she was a civil engineer working for Public Works Engineering and an environmental consultant in Canada, public servants as well, and including time when she was a student. So all told, Mayor Pauly has spent about 40 years in public service, which is shocking since she's only 39. I don't know how that happens. Anyway, 31 of those years have been right here in Issaquah. 31 years, just think about that, that's a long time. I think that's pretty incredible. And what I find most incredible is Mayor Pauly's embrace of public service in its purest form. She maintains the highest standards and ethical principles: honesty, integrity, transparency, and humility. She serves the common good above personal ambition, politics, pettiness, and self. Her heart's greatest passion is to help others, and both her heart and her home are always open and always full. Even during her off hours, Mayor Pauly is consumed by being the best public servant she can possibly be. She loves this work. You know she absolutely loves this work, you can tell. You can see it, we've all experienced it. When you're with Mayor Pauly, she is engrossed in conversations with people 24/7. Engaging with people is not a check-the-box part of the job. She doesn't do this because she has to. Mayor Pauly talks to people because she loves to. You know this is true. I'm sure you've experienced this as well, because she is often running late, because she cannot tear herself away from conversations about our community and local issues because she enjoys it so much. I experienced that tonight, by the way. Public service to Mary Lou is not about sitting in a chair, holding a position, being efficient, having a title, or simply making decisions. It's about truly loving the people and truly loving the community you serve through passion, empathy, dedication, actions, and conduct. And she does it authentically because she means it. To borrow a current movie song phrase, because our community knew you, because we all knew you through your public service and your friendship, we have been changed for good. So from the bottom of my heart, I want to thank you, Mary Lou, for your service to Issaquah. It means a lot to all of us. Now, at the end of this month, you are going to be discharged and ordered to spend more time with your family and friends because they miss you and you deserve it. I want to say congratulations again. Thank you. Cheers to you, Mayor Lou. I love you.
Thank you. City Clerk, who's next?
Nancy Davidson.
Good evening. I'm Nancy Davidson. I am a resident in Old Town Issaquah, 405 Southeast Bush, and I too here want to echo Stacy's comments, because I'm here also to thank Mary Lou for her service. I want to thank you for your over 30 years of commitment to the residents, businesses, and visitors to the city of Issaquah. Your leadership, thoughtfulness, caring, and commitment to the city has been unmatched. She has thoughtfully dealt with significant growth as a member of the Development Commission, council member, and since 2017 as the mayor. She has stewarded our community's financial and environmental resources dealing with budget surpluses and shortfalls. Environmental challenges such as flooding, bomb cyclones, pandemics, and other issues that have been faced in her term as the mayor, all while leading the city thoughtfully and carefully. The one true area I really appreciate about Mayor Pauly is her leadership and her commitment to communication. As mayor, she has worked to improve communication with residents and businesses, a true challenge to the community since we lost the Issaquah Press. And that continued effort to try and communicate with its residents, businesses is duly noted. It's a challenge. Finally, at one point in time, I was too on the city council with a vision to complete a crossing of I-90 at what is now the underpass known as 4th Avenue Northeast. I ran for election to try and get that built. I'm truly proud that you finally got that work completed. It took a while, but it took a lot of money. But I want to thank you for actually seeing that vision that I ran in 2001 to get completed. So Mayor Pauly, thank you for all you have done for this community. I wish you the best as you and your family try to figure out what's next in your life and go be happy, enjoy life. Thank you.
Thank you, Nancy. It's very kind. City Clerk, who's next up?
Michelle Winterstein.
Good evening, council members and Mayor Pauly, and I thank you for your service as well. But I am here to actually speak about a different issue. I appreciate the opportunity to speak about the e-motorcycle and e-bicycle ordinance, AB 9087. I want to start by saying, sorry, I'm Michelle Winterstein. I'm a resident of Issaquah, 655 Mount Logan Drive. I want to say I share your concern for safety in our parks, trails, and streets. Reckless riding, whether by minors or adults, can put pedestrians and other users at risk. We all want safe, welcoming public spaces. But the ordinance before you takes too broad of an approach. It punishes all e-bike riders for the actions of a few. In effect, it stereotypes us, assuming that because some riders behave dangerously, everyone with an electric assist bike should be restricted, and that's not fair. Most e-bike riders are responsible. Many of us use pedal assist bikes for commuting, recreation, or mobility support, with or without using our pedal assist on our bike. I'm one of them. I ride the Rainier Trail to and from work. It's my safe, reliable route. If this ordinance bans Class 1 and Class 2 bikes from trails like the Rainier Trail, I would be forced to ride on the street with cars and trucks. And I don't feel safe riding in traffic. So I would be more likely to drive. And that means more congestion, more emissions, fewer people choosing healthy, sustainable transportation options. For those whose only option is a long bike commute on the Rainier Trail, for example, or other areas around, you're forcing them to be on the roads when they could be on the trail safely. In addition to riding on the trail, my office is right on the Rainier Trail, and I look over the trail all day long, and I watch people cross the street. And there are many bike riders who are unsafe. They ride too fast. Most of them are e-motorcycles. And many of them are younger minors or young adults. So what you're doing is you're bike profiling. You're treating all riders of electric bikes as dangerous when only a minority are misusing the technology. It's a collective punishment, and it undermines the very goals of safety and accessibility. We already have tools to address unsafe behavior. Speeding, reckless riding, and endangerment are enforceable under existing codes. Targeted enforcement against violators would solve the problem without stripping rights from responsible users. and education campaigns, especially for minors and their guardians, could make a real difference. Council members, safety is essential, but fairness is too. Please don't close our trails to those who use e-bikes responsibly. Revise this ordinance so it targets unsafe behavior directly instead of stereotyping an entire group of riders. Let's protect our parks and our trails without pushing riders into more dangerous situations on our streets. Thank you.
Thank you, Michelle. City Clerk, is there anyone else who signed up to speak?
Yes, Paul Winterstein.
Welcome, Paul.
Good evening, Mayor Pauly, council members. My name is Paul Winterstein. I live at 655 Mount Logan Drive here in Issaquah. I'm going to talk about Agenda Bill 9087 as well, but first, congratulations, Zach. Thanks for your service. I know you're going on to great things. Thank you also, Mayor Pauly. I know you're going on to even greater things. And I just got to say, you guys ran a heck of a campaign in 2017. Hopefully most of you saw my email from yesterday evening, so I don't want to go over that in detail, but it was I proposed an amendment to Agenda Bill 9087, and I was really appreciative this morning when I got a very thoughtful reply. I know that my request was taken seriously and given serious consideration, and so I do appreciate getting that response. So what I'm going to do is respond to the response that I got. That response did suggest that my proposed amendment makes it clear that this ordinance is not really about unsafe riding. It's about stopping electric bicycles altogether. The administration in the response says enforcement will be difficult because officers can't tell from afar whether a motor is on. But that misses the point. If an officer observes someone riding unsafely, speeding, weaving through pedestrians, or endangering others, that behavior is already visible. The officer doesn't need to know whether the motor is on. They need to cite the rider for unsafe operation. That's how we enforce every other traffic law, by observing behavior, not by guessing at equipment. The administration also suggested that the motor use is fluid and hard to prove. That may be their impression, but it's not accurate. Riders can and do choose whether to use the motor. Penalizing someone who has chosen to ride responsibly with the motor off is unfair and inconsistent with the city's stated goal of addressing unsafe operation. The ordinance, as written, criminalizes the presence of a motor rather than the misuse of it. That approach punishes responsible riders while failing to address the real problem, unsafe riding. If the city's goal is safety, then the ordinance should focus on behavior, speeding, reckless riding, and endangering pedestrians, regardless of whether the bicycle is electric or not. I urge you to reconsider the ordinance. Please refocus it on unsafe operation, not on the mere presence of a motor. That would give police the tools they need, protect pedestrians and trail users, and avoid penalizing residents who are riding safely. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. City Clerk, is there anyone else that has signed up to speak this evening?
Yes, Corby Kessler.
Welcome, Corby.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, council members, Mayor-elect Mullet, and the audience. Today, I'm going to encourage you to shop. And I want you to shop small. And if you haven't been to the holiday shop at Historic Shell, then you're missing out on all the creations that 30 different artists are selling, and they're selling at a great rate. It's been packed. It's been really a beautiful thing to see people come downtown, shop before and after the theater. But I really encourage you to go and take a look at all the different one-of-a-kind items that you might be able to get for a gift. Second, if you haven't seen Lazy Boy parking lot filled, you would have wanted to drive by yesterday during the Historically Hip Author Fair, where we had 30 authors there selling their books in the store. And the store manager said he'd never seen his parking lot so filled before. So it was great to see burgeoning of things happening in downtown. It's a plain old Saturday and Sunday during the holidays, and people are coming out in droves. So really encourage you to be among them. Thank you.
Thank you, Corby. City Clerk, is there anyone else who has signed up to speak?
No one else has signed up to speak. We do have a few folks with us virtually, but I don't see any virtual hands raised.
Just looking to see, oh, Mariah, hi there. Oh, and Kelly. Okay, Mariah followed by Kelly.
Oh, I'm good. Now I have to find my notes. So hello, Mayor and Council, staff, administration, and Mayor-elect Mullet. I'm really happy to be here tonight, and I would love to just talk about a couple of things. I'd like to talk about Mayor Pauly and thank her, and also Zach Hall. So Mayor Pauly, and I'm going to talk personally here. I want to thank you for three things. I want to thank you for your leadership, your mentorship, and your friendship. Your passion for Issaquah and your love for the city and this community has been inspiring to me for years, and I know it inspires so many. Your leadership for the city has been steadfast. You've been an amazing leader to this whole amazing City of Issaquah team, leading our city, balancing growth, balancing the budget, stewarding the environment, developing really impactful partnerships, guiding us through emergencies. Who could have seen the kinds of things that were coming your way, COVID and the bomb cyclone, and just advocating for Issaquah through the legislature, and working tirelessly throughout the region, day and night, and I just know how much you've done. Caring and listening to our diverse community, I think, is really number one. I think that your ability to really stop and listen to everyone who's speaking to you is really been amazing, and it's been amazing to watch, and it just instills trust across the board. And that's not just a personal comment, but from what I hear from others. As a mentor, when I started on City Council, you were an amazing mentor to me. And I know that you and Stacy and I will always fondly remember our time on Land and Shore and the laughs that we had. And you've been an amazing mentor to so many. You're always encouraging people to run for office, and you're inspiring people to believe in themselves. And that is so impactful. You shined as a city council leader, and I watched you evolve as you became mayor, and then had the opportunity to work with you while you were mayor when I was on leadership. And just, I've learned so much from you. And I know everyone around you has learned so much from you. And now, as you're leaving, I just want to thank you. And now I'm just honored to call you my friend. One more thing. Your amazing impact is felt now. It's been felt for decades. And all of the seeds that you've planted are going to grow into a tall, beautiful foundational tree in Issaquah. Thank you. Zach Hall. In 2019, after 4 years on council, I made a difficult, heart-wrenching decision not to run in the upcoming election, and I was so concerned about who was going to take on council position number 2. And I'm so glad that it was you, that it was Zach Hall. After long conversations with Zach, I knew that you were the person for the role. And I was just taken. I remember being very taken at the time with your knowledge, your profound knowledge of all of the issues that were happening. It was really astounding. And just your absolute care. I could tell how passionate you were, but I could tell that it was just more than that. It was how much you really, really cared about this community. And then you stepped in right while COVID was getting started, and a lot of really complex issues. And I watched, as you worked your way through so much of that. And I just was very, very impressed. And you've really worked to balance a sustainable Issaquah, our quality of life. You've been an advocate for the environment, voting for infrastructure, working again across so many different projects. And now moving to the House of Representatives, I'm really happy that you're going to be our representative in Olympia, and I know that you'll be advocating, you'll continue to advocate for Issaquah, and I just want to thank you for your service. Thanks, everybody.
That's very kind, Mariah. City Clerk, is there anyone else? Oh, sorry, Kelly, come on up. Let's go back to the list, but we're in the room now. Welcome.
Great. Well, I'm here as a just random member of the public tonight, but I'll be back up there in not too long. So I'm here to talk about two topics tonight. The first one is the Acres of Diamonds situation, and the second one is the e-motorcycle ordinance. So first of all, I just wanted to mention that Deputy Council President Dee Michelle and I had the opportunity to tour the Acres of Diamonds facility up in Duval a couple months ago, and it was a really great experience. They have a facility that provides the wraparound services that these formerly unhoused women and their children need to actually get back on their feet and get on a path to, employment, finding permanent housing. And so it's actually like typically women and children are there for like 1 to 2 years. And so having seen that program and how it really works with that group setting, and we saw where they were going to build the new facility that would actually have on-site childcare, which is a huge issue for these women because a lot of times, they have to get jobs elsewhere, and the childcare provided on-site will also, be trauma-informed for those children. So I think it's a really great project, and we have an opportunity to be able to help move that forward. I know, when I originally heard about this project, there were a lot of concerns that I and others had. For example, removing an affordability covenant is not something where we want to set that as a precedent. But ultimately, where I came to on this was that it's going to result in a net increase in affordable housing throughout the region, and also where they're able to kind of have a more centralized space to provide those services like on-site childcare, counseling, et cetera. So I think it makes a lot of sense. There's also, concerns about the fees that were waived, such as the permit fees, the low-income heat pump retrofit, and the fact that the final agreement now, requires them to essentially pay us back for that, I think is great. And also the whole escrow account, where basically the money, that if they sell these properties at full market rate, the money is basically locked up in this account until they actually have raised enough money to break ground. So it's not like we could end up in a situation where they take the money and don't do what they said. So overall, I think I want to give a huge kudos to the administration and especially our city attorney for working through all of those details, and I'm in full support of moving forward with that project. On e-motorcycles, so I recently had the opportunity to talk to hundreds, possibly thousands of voters in Issaquah, and e-motorcycles was like top of the list. It's like number 1 concern, traffic. Number 2, e-motorcycles. And it's not something that's in the community survey, so it wasn't in there. So I think that, passing local legislation addressing e-motorcycles is really important, and I think what we have at this point is generally reasonable. However, I do think it's good that in our state legislative agenda, we've included that we want to push for more state action. And one of the things that's been done in other states is basically saying, going after the manufacturers for deceptive marketing. So if there's something at the state level, then the Attorney General can actually go after companies like Suron for, advertising these as e-bikes when they're e-motorcycles. So I fully support all of our legislative efforts at the state level. I do agree with some of the concerns that have been raised, particularly on section 10.48.030, which is the authority to limit class 1 or 2 electric assisted bicycle use, which basically says the Parks and Community Services Director is authorized to prohibit use of class 1 or 2 electric assisted bicycles within city-owned parks or open space. I think that I personally have a lot of questions on when that would be allowed to be used, so I would encourage the council to discuss whether or not at this juncture it makes sense to strike that. I'm someone who also rides an e-bike. I don't have that much fear of riding near cars, although I do appreciate being able to be on the Rainier Trail safe from cars when that's an option. And so I think, if the real concern right now is the e-motorcycles, I think, also offering the parks director like unilateral discretion to ban class 1 and 2 e-bikes is a bit out of scope for this specific discussion, so I would recommend considering striking that. But ultimately, I think, what we've seen in a lot of other cities is that when they've addressed e-motorcycles, they've also just like fully banned e-bikes, and we're not doing that in this case, so I think that's very good. Other things that we've seen in other cities are things like, restricting the speed limit on sidewalks to 5 miles an hour, which also restricts runners because most people run faster than 5 miles an hour. So I think overall, what we're doing here is fairly balanced, and I'm looking forward to hearing the full discussion tonight. So thank you.
Thank you, Kelly. Is there anyone else in the room, or City Clerk, anyone else online that would like to comment? Anyone else in the room? Well, thank you all for your comments. We heard a lot of embarrassing comments tonight for Councilmember Hall and I, but I appreciate that you took the time to talk about how we may have impacted our community and the work that we do. So that was very, very kind. And also, thanks for coming in and talking about the e-bicycles as well, e-motorcycles, e-bicycles, because that will be an item for tonight. So thank you all for doing that. Appreciate it. And Corby, thank you for coming in and talking about the available fun stuff in Old Town during Christmas as well. As a reminder, folks can write their city council at any time at citycouncil@issaquah.gov, and we are going to move on to the consent calendar. I don't have any remarks on the consent calendar items, but I will ask City Clerk to address one update that has been made to the calendar.
Thank you, Mayor. City Council, you received an email before the meeting that has a corrected version of the ordinance that accompanies item I on the consent calendar, the 2026 salary ordinance. We noticed some minor errors in Exhibit A, the non-representative salary schedule that was included in the packet. So with approval of the consent calendar, we have put before you this corrected version of the ordinance that was distributed prior to the meeting. Thank you.
Are there any committee chairs or chair designates who would like to report on any of the consent calendar items? Not seeing any indication. The consent calendar was distributed to council in advance, and if authorized, the items on the consent calendar will be considered together and approved by one motion. Have the payables and payroll been reviewed?
They have.
They have.
Thank you. Does any council member desire to remove any item from the consent calendar and consider it under regular business? Not seeing any indication. Can we get a motion? Council President?
I move we approve the consent calendar as amended. Thank you.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
Those opposed? That carries 6-0. We're going to move into regular business. So this is AB 9079, Acres of Diamonds Affordable Housing Covenants. And the request before council this evening is to authorize. City Attorney Rachel Bender-Turpin is up at the podium to speak to us. Welcome, Rachel.
Thank you. Thank you for having me this evening. Let me get this started. Okay. Thank you. Before you this evening is a memorandum of understanding between the City of Issaquah and Acres of Diamonds. The purpose of this discussion is to seek your authorization for the mayor to execute this memorandum of understanding, which, as you've heard about a little bit this evening, thanks to Councilmember Jing's very nice overview, would release some affordable housing restricted covenants that are recorded against 2 transitional housing properties in the city. There's a little bit of background on this item that I want to go over. It has kind of a lengthy history, so bear with me. But back between 2005 and 2006, the City Council agreed to waive approximately $21,000 in permit and other development fees in exchange for development of the property that's located at 252 Southeast Andrews. It has the slash in its title because it's a duplex, and that's how the addressing works for duplexes, which were going to be developed into transitional housing by a nonprofit called Compassion House, which in exchange agreed to record a 30-year restrictive covenant against the property, restricting its use to affordable housing at a very low income level. Then in 2012, the City Council again agreed to waive permit and other development fees for another property owned by Compassion House, this time in the amount of approximately $52,000. This was also developed into a duplex for use as transitional housing, and once again, a 30-year restrictive covenant was recorded against the property. However, it didn't get recorded for several years, so it wasn't recorded until 2019. Then Acres of Diamonds came on the scene. They acquired both properties from Compassion House in 2019, I believe, and they have been operating them as transitional housing. Acres of Diamonds is a local nonprofit, as you've heard about this evening. They provide housing to transitional housing, but long-term transitional housing to unhoused women and their children. And they also provide related services like counseling, job training, trauma-informed childcare, and other services that are intended to empower their participants to get help and become self-sufficient and re-enter the workplace on their own. Their primary facility is located in Duval. It currently serves 18 family units. Acres is in the process of developing a new facility, the Family Renewal Home, which will add 24 units, so it will more than double their current capacity to serve. And it will be, it will also have a on-site daycare, which is a really big asset, as you've heard. The project is located in Duval, where the organization is located, and it's estimated to cost approximately $12 million. Acres has already raised, I believe it's up to $6 million at this point, in cash and matching gifts from charitable folks around the region, and they plan to break ground when they get to 8.75 million, which is 70% of their goal, which is a pretty typical number to hit when you would break ground, because often more funds come in the farther along in the process you're more eligible for various grants and things when you've shown that you're actually working on the project. The proposed MOU has several terms to it. Under it, the city would agree to release the affordable housing restricted covenants so that these properties can be sold for their highest fair market value. Right now, with the restricted covenants on them, because they can only be used as transitional housing, it's going to severely impact the ability to sell them at market rate. So this would allow Acres of Diamonds to receive the best possible prices for these homes. In exchange, Acres would reimburse the city for the waived fees at today's values. So we took the amount of waived fees in the past and we applied an inflation factor to them to get what it would be at current value. They would also reimburse the city for the heat pumps that were installed at the properties through the city's low-income heat pump installation program, so that the city can then reinvest those funds into additional heat pump installations in the city. They would also agree that the city would continue to be a priority community for placement of graduates from the Family Renewal Home project, or program. And they would agree that the proceeds from the sale, which we estimate to be approximately $2 million, would be held in a restricted account and not released to Acres of Diamonds until they get to $6.75 million in funding and can break ground and actually use that money to get to work. If they don't proceed with the Family Renewal Program in 3 years, then the parties would meet and confer to decide how to best use those funds to support women and children in the region. So the options before you this evening are to authorize the mayor to execute the MOU and the release documents that go along with it. In that case, the properties would be sold and invested into the Family Renewal Home. Or you could decline to execute the MOU and release documents, in which case the restricted covenants would remain in place for the remainder of their term, and the properties can only be sold at affordable housing, which would likely reduce their sales prices. the administration is recommending moving forward with this proposal, and I am here to answer any questions that you might have.
Thank you, Rachel. Council questions? Well, there was a lot of good information in there. I'm not seeing any questions. I'd be looking for a motion. Council President?
I move to authorize the mayor to execute the memorandum of understanding between the city and Acres of Diamonds and the related restrictive covenant release documents attached thereto.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any council discussion? Council President?
Thank you. Despite there being no questions up here on the dais, I know this has gone through a long process, and so I wanted to take a moment to appreciate the fact that when this first came up for us, I was rather concerned with the idea. I'm very protective of our affordable housing in the city of Issaquah, and while I very, very much respect Acres of Diamonds as an organization, I think they've done wonderful work. My job and my role here is to be protective of Issaquah, both our city finances and the benefits that our residents get through deals that we have made about affordable housing. So I wanted to recognize the great work that went into understanding the benefits that these organizations throughout the years had received from the city in exchange for providing the affordable housing. As well as, just all of the conversations that had to happen in us saying, well, we don't want to give this up until there really is a project that is viable and thus is going to end up resulting in more affordable housing in the region. So very much appreciate the work that has gone into that. I will be supporting this evening because of that intense work, because I know we are not just saying yes to any option that came across us, but rather being protective of the benefits that our residents receive. Thank you.
Thank you. Deputy Council President?
I think Council President Walsh summarized that very well, so I won't repeat what she had to say. But I did want to say as well that I was very appreciative of the tour that Councilmember Zhang and I received. Very, very informative. I do think that transitional housing that provides the kind of wraparound services that Acres of Diamonds provides is the real answer. And I'm not surprised at all at that 92% rate of people who remain housed after they've been through your program. So it's been a very good journey in terms of communications and information that was provided freely and openly. And I just appreciate all the work that went into this, including our city attorney's work. So thank you so much, and I also will be supporting this.
Any other comments from council? Councilmember Martz?
Thank you. I think that this document is particularly well done in terms of the lens of what is the community investment and what is the proposed community benefit. And while the benefit in the near term won't be into our community, by pulling back the benefit that had been received on this, I think it really makes it an easier conversation to have with the public. And so if we have any more like this in the future, that this lens of what benefit was given versus what public benefit results, I think is a wonderful lens and makes for good policy. Thank you.
Any other council comments? I've got to get this right. Councilmember Nichols.
Thank you. I want to say, so first off, I think affordable housing in Issaquah is critical. And anytime we're considering modifications to affordable housing covenants that will reduce affordable housing in the city, we need to analyze those very carefully. However, I'm really impressed with the work the staff has done here to come up with a good compromise. I also think that the context here is important as well. We've had, as a community, 20 out of the 30 years of this intended agreement have now materialized. And now we have an opportunity to be a part of something even bigger and better. I do think there's a lot that we can do as a city to help with the housing affordability, both locally and regionally, and that this is a good example of one of those types of things, and that this will directly benefit Issaquah residents. People will not have to be Issaquah residents will be able to benefit from this whether they live, even if they are not in the city of Duval, for example, where this is intended to go. So I think that's really important to keep in mind, and that building something bigger and better using these funds is ultimately the best use of this land and this resource as a community. So I'll be happy to vote yes, and I appreciate all the work that went into this.
Thank you. Councilmember Jobe.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm happy to support this agenda bill this evening. Just want to make sure that we as a council and we as a city understand that under the comp plan for 30% AMI and below, we need 1,668 units by 2044. 30 to 50% AMI, we need 868 units by 2044. 50 to 80% AMI, the low income, we need 460 units. So if we are giving up 4 units here, it would seem that we would need to add 4 units to those numbers as we go forward. So I would encourage us to think about being a little bit more aggressive as we talk with Arch and as we look for other opportunities for partnering with other nonprofits to get the numbers that we need to comply with our comprehensive plan goals. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? Okay. Well, Rachel, I just want to say well done. A very complicated one-off type situation where I think what you've worked out is the very best plan that we could have going forward. So fantastic work.
Well, thank you. Acres of Diamonds was a pleasure to work with the whole time as well.
That's so nice. So it has been moved and seconded to authorize the mayor to execute the memorandum of understanding between the city and Acres of Diamonds and the related restricted covenant release documents attached thereto. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
Those opposed? That carries 6-0. Congratulations, and again, Rachel, thank you very, very much. So we're going to move into the next item, which has already been talked about this evening as well, which is AB 9087, e-motorcycle and e-bicycle ordinance. And the task before council this evening is to adopt the ordinances. Let's start by inviting Police Chief Schwan to come up and present this item. Welcome, Chief.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, Council. As you know, tonight we're here to talk about AB 9087, e-motorcycles and e-bicycle ordinance. I'm here to present the administration's proposed ordinances to better regulate e-bike and e-motorcycle definitions, the use, and the penalties for violations. So this is achieved through 2 related ordinances. The first is a proposed new code section defining and regulation use of e-motorcycles and e-bikes. The second cleans up the existing impoundment chapter to modernize it, allowing for impounding of e-motorcycles and allowing for officers to use discretion and allow e-motorcycles or e-bikes to be picked up at the police station within certain parameters. We recommend authorizing both ordinances as presented. The ordinances presented today were supported by Services, Safety, and Parks Committee. We began discussing the need for these ordinances due to the prevalence and visibility of e-bikes and e-motorcycles in the Issaquah, particularly dangerous and illegal behavior. While there is national increase in popularity and ambiguity of e-bikes, there are some dangerous trends emerging in the region that they are seeing in Issaquah as well and the other local jurisdictions around us. E-bikes can provide motor assistance to up to 28 miles per hour, which is faster than many pedal bikes go. And the e-motorcycles and e-bikes, or dirt bikes, are also gaining popularity. These vehicles can go much faster than 28 miles per hour. And both e-motorcycles and e-bikes have large youth ridership. This poses several issues. Younger riders are less likely to be aware of the rules of the road and operate these vehicles at higher speeds than pedal bike only, leading to danger for riders and drivers. All of this results in more dangerous interactions between riders and drivers, pedestrians, and parks and trail users. At the September 30th Services, Safety, and Parks Committee meeting, the administration provided an overview of these issues in Issaquah, and the committee was in support of the administration's recommendations to develop a local ordinance and with definitions, usage, and penalties to support state action on defining and regulating e-motorcycles and education for parents and minors. The committee also strongly supported means to ensure officers to have the tools they need. The ordinance proposed today are one of the tools that will help enforcement and the education by IPD. We returned to the committee on November 18th with the proposed ordinances, which the committee supported with 2 adjustments: correcting the scope of the Parks Director's authority and reducing the monetary penalty for e-bike infractions to ensure the penalties and tailored to the gravity of the infractions. These are the goals the administration used to craft the ordinances. They are based on committee feedback and IPD and parks needs. Number 1, ensure officers have tools needed to make stops, education, and issue infractions as needed. Consistency and clarity on where e-bikes and e-motorcycles can be operated, and tailor penalties to better educate guardians and riders themselves. The first ordinance creating a new section of the code for e-motorcycles and e-bikes has the following definition. We propose that an e-motorcycle is a motorcycle powered in full or in part by electricity, and that does not have operable foot pedals, or exceeds 750 watts, or the motor continues to assist even when it exceeds 28 miles per hour. The definition is written this way to ensure it captures e-dirt bikes and e-bikes that are modified beyond the capabilities listed in the current RCW. The definitions for e-bikes are derived from RCW. Class 1 e-bikes only provides motor assistance when the rider's pedals or the rider's pedal and stops providing assistance at 20 miles per hour. Class 2 e-bikes have a motor that can power the e-bikes without pedaling and is also capped at 20 miles per hour. Class 3 e-bikes only provides motor assistance when pedaling, but it provides assistance up to 28 miles per hour. Proposed requirements for operation. The proposed ordinance has numerous requirements for the operation of e-motorcycles drawn from RCW. The issues we most commonly see are noted on the slide. Minors under the age of 16 and operating without registration, license plate, licensure, or endorsements. E-bikes are subject to less regulation because we don't want to widely discourage use, but other portions of code and RCW have provisions for safety, including requirements for helmets, and that you must be 16 or older or for Class 3 e-bikes, which are the ones capable of going faster than the motor assistance. Assuming a rider meets all of the criteria we just discussed, their bike or e-motorcycle is allowed as outlined in the table above. As you can see, e-motorcycles are allowed only on the street, while Class 1 and 2 e-bikes are allowed most places, similar to regular pedal bikes. Class 3 e-bikes are allowed on streets and the sidewalk if no alternative path is provided, but cannot be on pedestrian paths, shared use paths, park trails, and city parks. These recommendations were developed by looking at where King County parks allow different classes of e-bikes and our surrounding jurisdictions, as well as other cities. What we propose here is largely similar to Sammamish and Bellevue's code. I'd like to see if Director Jeff Watling would like to come up now and address the issue regarding preventing or discouraging people on the parks, as was mentioned earlier.
Thanks, Chief. Good evening, everyone. Jeff Watling, Parks and Community Services Director. Glad I'm here tonight. I wasn't planning on staying for this, but really want to provide some clarity, and I think this table is a great place to show that. It is our intent, and was our intent as we drafted this with administration, that we allow Class 1 and Class 2 e-bikes throughout our parks and trail system, just like we encourage any other bikes. The prohibition language that you see in there is similar to the prohibition language that King County has and a number of other jurisdictions. That prohibition is intended to be extremely, extremely rare. And in many cases, that prohibition is probably not just for Class 1, Class 2 e-bikes, but for bikes in general. We have some forested trails within our park system where bikes aren't allowed. Here on the valley floor, the new improvements to pedestrian park. We want to see how that space is being used. It could be a possibility as a gathering space that we want all bikers to dismount their bikes. And so we would have a prohibition. Again, the intent isn't to prohibit solely Class 1 and Class 2 bikes, e-bikes, but this ordinance to at least give consistency where we are doing a prohibition of bike use throughout the system. But that's meant to be extremely rare. We know the value of Issaquah's parks and trail system is really meant for connectivity. That's the vision of that system, and providing an alternative way to get around. Specifically, pointing out the Rainier Trail, that would be a shared use path that Class 1 and Class 2 e-bikes would be strongly encouraged to be used. Just wanted to give that clarity. And again, I think the table certainly points out intent.
We're going to take a question from Councilmember Martz.
Actually, it was for Director Watling. Sorry.
Come on back up, Jeff.
So I'm looking at the draft minutes from the Services, Safety, and Parks Committee, and I have that we did, the chief was correct about the general sense of the body, but it said the proposed ordinance, we recommended that it be amended to state that Parks Director can only prohibit e-bikes use on city parks, trails, and city park trails, parks, and plazas, but not sidewalks, pedestrian pathways, or shared use paths. That is not the language that's in front of us today. Did the administration reject our request?
No, I don't believe so. It's probably not a question for me. I know the intent, I listened into that conversation. You're absolutely right. The intent was understanding the Parks Director probably shouldn't have authority to make decisions on right-of-way.
Thank you.
Please do.
You see pedestrian paths include, pardon? Jillian Straw, Management Analyst. Thank you. You see pedestrian paths included there, in part because there might be some pedestrian paths that intersect with or cross over with our parks. And we wanted to give the ability to regulate that to our Parks Director. That was a change that was made after the meeting with Services, Safety, and Parks. We had a minute to look into it further, but sidewalks should not be included in that. So.
And sidewalks are not included.
Okay.
It was the pedestrian pathways and shared use paths that I was specifically referring to. Thank you.
Okay. Chief? Oh, Councilmember Nichols?
Also, potentially Jeff. So my question is, does the Parks Department have the authority to ban bikes in general, so not e-bikes, but bikes overall, on trails, pedestrian paths, et cetera, at the moment?
Yeah, we were able to sign a prohibition of bikes, let's say on our synthetic turf fields at Central Park. Or again, there are certain forested trails within Park Point and Tradition Plateau where bikes are not allowed.
And would that prohibition include e-bikes and e-motorcycles?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. Jeff, just stay up there. Okay. Chief, do you have more slides to go through?
Yes.
Thanks.
Thank you. An item that came up in the September meeting is speed. particularly for off-street use. This will be a topic of discussion next year with park staff and park board as they develop a dedicated park portion of the code. Regarding the proposed impoundment and penalty options, the proposed ordinances address impoundment and penalties as well. The second ordinance proposed would allow e-bikes and e-motorcycles to be picked up at the police station, likely the same day as the stop, is what our goal is. This accounts for a scenario where, for example, an IPD officer makes a stop where they cannot allow the minor to ride on e-motorcycle or e-bike home after the stop, but the guardian can come pick it up soon thereafter. This could be a useful education tool, another opportunity for us to communicate with the guardians rather than impounding straight to a tow lot. And that's where it's limited to contact between the officer and the guardian at that point, plus it incurs a large amount of fees comparatively. The change to the IMC allows for officers and flexibility to have the e-motorcycle or e-bike be picked up at the station, but does not mandate that this approach be used. There are also penalties separate from an impounding charge from a tow company. The table on the slide lists the penalties for infractions. E-bikes have a lower penalty because e-motorcycles pose a much larger issue and increased danger compared to the e-bikes themselves. The City Council, if the City Council approved a legislative policy manual that directs the administration to support changes to the state level around this issue, we will also continue to monitor the issue and develop outreach and education. We are recommending the two ordinances are adopted today, is what we brought forth to the council. I'm open for questions.
Thank you, Chief. I'm going to first go to Councilmember Martz as the chair of the Services, Safety, and Parks Committee meeting. And is there anything you'd like to summarize about the committee's recommendation on this item?
Sure. Thank you, Madam Mayor. The Services, Safety, and Parks Committee met on November 18th here in Chambers. On this item, the committee did recommend the ordinances be brought to the full City Council at this meeting. We recommended the proposed ordinance changes that we already discussed. We recommended penalties for e-bikes and e-motorcycle violations to be different, and that the code to closely match neighboring jurisdictions' regulations, which is the language in front of you today. In public comment, we had somebody from the local sales of electric bicycles speaking in favor of the proposed ordinances and clear messaging, education, and signage regarding e-bike usage and restrictions. In addition, we stress the importance of local constituency in e-bike regulation, local consistency, in e-bike regulations, and the need to include e-bike regulation in the city's legislative agenda for the state legislature, ensuring regulations are communicated and education offered to the public, care taken to balance the public's need for e-bike transportation with safety, and thanks to the staff for working on this item. This concludes my report.
Thank you. Now we'll go to council questions. I am not seeing any questions. Would, Councilmember Martz, would you care to make a motion?
Yes, I would. And boy, oh boy.
She's got it up too.
Got it up there.
Yep.
Okay, thank you. We've been struggling with these monitors over here. They weren't actually on a few minutes ago. So they're working now. I propose adopting ordinance number
3129.
Adopting Chapter 10.48 of the Issaquah Municipal Code to regulate the use of electric-assisted bicycles and electric motorcycles, and adopt ordinance number
3130.
Amending Chapter 10.34 of the Issaquah Municipal Code, abandon unauthorized and junk motor vehicles, to modernize the chapter, authorizing impound without notice for vehicles operated illegally, and authorizing in-person notice of impound and notice by first-class mail.
Second.
Thank you. It's been moved and seconded. How about council discussion? Councilmember Nichols, then Deputy Council President.
So I'm going to need some help with this, but my intent here is to offer a motion to strike 10.48.30 and 10.48.40A. The context there is these are the authorities that basically give the Parks Director the authority to ban Class 1 and Class 2 e-bikes on city-owned parks, open space, or pedestrian pathways, shared use paths, or park trails within them. And 10.48.40A is referencing back to 10.48.30, so I think it's also relevant to include those both. My comment is...
Let's get a second.
Oh, sorry.
It's been seconded.
Second.
There we go. It's been seconded. And have a comment. I also want to have staff talk about what removing that language does to the director as well.
Thank you. So,
Go ahead.
comment first?
Sure.
Okay, thank you. So yeah, my commentary is, my question to the director was intended to get at whether the Parks Department already has the authority to remove bicycles from areas where bicycles should not be utilized. I think it's very reasonable to not have bicycles be allowed everywhere. There are places where they could clearly not be safe. I see Class 1 and Class 2 e-bikes as essentially equivalent to bicycles in almost every way. They have speed limitations. As a regular Class 1 e-bike user, I would see myself as in the same category as any other bicyclists. And I think that we should be very careful and judicious about any sort of ban that we place on e-bikes, because they are a key part of our mobility framework for the future, and they have a great deal of utility. So with that, I would urge caution in preemptively banning them from places, or preemptively allowing the ban of e-bikes separate from bicycles in any area at all, and that would include, as was brought up in public comment, the Rainier Trail is a good example of that, and that we should be treating Class 1 and Class 2 e-bikes essentially equivalent to any other bicycle. Class 3 e-bikes and e-motorcycles, I think, are in a different category. They can go much faster. Class 3 e-bike does not necessarily require any pedaling at all. They have a throttle that can make the thing go up to 30 miles an hour, basically. In e-motorcycles, I think, are also a very different category. So I think the work that staff did to harmonize this ordinance with other jurisdictions for Class 3 e-bikes as well as e-motorcycles makes a great deal of sense, and is the primary safety consideration that's at work here. But I would appreciate some discussion on removing the restrictions on Class 1 and 2 e-bikes separate from bicycles alone.
So I'm assuming our lawyer would like to comment on that.
I just want to clarify that I don't believe there is anything in the IMC currently that does authorize the director to ban bicycles generally from various parks or trails. They are not allowed on various parks and trails, but Director Watling is not aware of the history behind how that came about. So that may have been a council decision years ago. It may have been something that a director did years ago. But it's not something that is in the code right now, So
in terms of a couple of questions that were asked, if pedestrian park were to be a no bicycle zone, that would just mean dismount and walk your bike through it. It doesn't mean you can't go on it. It just means you can't
no
ride
riding
it through.
it.
Right.
Yes.
And then the second part of the question was, does this, as currently written, represent, equate bicycles with Class 1 and Class 2?
I believe that, I think, did we add a definition of bicycle, Jillian? Do you remember? No, we already have one that we didn't, so we didn't have to. It doesn't equate them for purposes of other IMC provisions. Other IMC provisions regarding bicycles would apply because these are types of bicycles. So bicycles is the big umbrella.
Bicycles.
Exactly. Okay. Mm-hmm. These specific provisions to Class 1 bicycles, Class 2 would not apply to all bicycles. They would be specific to the electric bicycles. Does that make sense?
I think so. So let's do some comments or questions. Council President, Councilmember Hall.
So I'm tempted to agree with this concept, because I think anything that we are looking at as a way to limit Class 1 and Class 2 electric assisted bicycles should just run under a general bicycle provision. And so I don't see the use of this if we do have a lack of the ability for the parks director to limit bicycle use, then let's take that on as some other ordinance. But as far as I can see, I think I was going to make a similar motion. So unless somebody can create a reason why this needs to be in here, I think this actually takes away from our emphasis on limiting e-motorcycle use in this way.
Councilmember Hall?
Thanks. Yeah, just that I'm getting, did you want to, looks like maybe you were wanting to respond to something first.
Well, I just wanted to also make a comment, then we would be, one of the shop owner that sells the e-bikes in the area did comment at Services Safety, is that one of the issues that they have is the inconsistency from one jurisdiction to the other. And by changing that, I'm just putting it out there that we would be different than those that are in those other jurisdictions. And the reason that becomes problematic is, let's say, some of the trails all run together in the different jurisdictions, whether it be King County or into Bellevue or those different locations. The problem then therein lies with us having something different. Where does that stop? How do they sometimes know what jurisdiction they're in versus not? So I just wanted to make sure that that was a comment that was brought up by the shop owner. They love the extra education piece, and that was whenever there are those trails or where they can and cannot. But sometimes when they run together, it makes it really difficult. So I just wanted to make sure that was also aware.
It'd be interesting to hear from any of the three committee members as well, that consistency seemed to be important. Councilmember Marks?
Yeah, I just want to ask the chief, I want to understand better. If we strike 10.48.030 and 10.48.040A, how is that different from Bellevue or Sammamish? Where's the inconsistency? Because the mayor's right, consistency was a big part. We wanted to simplify things such that particularly children who are involved in riding these bicycles have really clear regulatory guidance from our city.
Yeah, Jillian Straub, Management Analyst. So this is a portion that we really borrowed heavily from the King County Park System in order to kind of align the two park systems that are really active in our city. So this is one of those alignments with a different jurisdiction, not necessarily a city. I believe that Bellevue also has provisions in their code allowing their parks director to ban bicycles or e-bicycles on certain parks and trails. Part of the reason that you see these two provisions included, 030 and 040A, is because we don't have a comprehensive parks code chapter yet. When that's created, things like these powers and regulatory authority will be delegated there. In the meantime, we wanted to have the ability to create that alignment with other jurisdictions and be really consistent in that way. So likely this is something that might come back before the council when there is a parks code created to pull that into the park system and make it really easy for folks to find there.
I think Deputy Council President, and then Councilmember Hall, or were you next? Okay, Councilmember Hall.
Go ahead.
Councilmember Hall, Council President, Deputy Council President.
You're first. Yep.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, going back to my question, although it does sound like we need to talk to those pesky legislators. So I'm getting kind of confused over the different classes. So there's been some discussion up here about like 1 and 2, are we equating that with bikes? But class 2 is the one that you can ride without pedaling, right? Class 3, you still have to pedal. Isn't that right? At least that's how it's written in the current presentation and in the code. Isn't that right? The difference is class 3 goes to 28 miles an hour and it has a speedometer. Isn't that right? So is that like the edge there that makes class 3 more dangerous or prohibited in these particular zones in the administration's opinion?
The speed specifically is what makes it more dangerous, is because the class 3s go a faster speed and have higher wattage, and that essentially is what changes that big difference and jumps that.
Okay.
So.
But you are correct.
Yes.
That class 2 can operate without being pedaled.
Okay. Thank you.
Council President, Deputy Council President, or I'll let you two decide.
I'll just go quickly. I looked at Bellevue's code, at least what's references off of their e-bike and electric motorcycle safety page, which references their Bellevue BCC 3.43.160, which designates it's unlawful to ride, propel, drive, or direct any motorized vehicle over through any park. So that's how they handle it, not specific to something that is class 1, 2, or 3. Just as a note, I'm still looking up King counties.
Deputy Council President?
So part of the discussion that we had that evening, I had just participated in Eastside Transportation Partnership, and we were working on our legislative priorities. And really the only new thing that was added this year, because it is a short session, was urging the legislature to step up and make some general rules, because the interest there among the 21 cities that participate in that particular organization was to have consistency across the east side, so that, again, as the chief said, the trails tend to run in and out of different jurisdictions, and it makes it really difficult if there's no consistency, which there isn't right now. So using this ordinance to make ourselves consistent with the parks, with the King County parks, with Bellevue, and so other adjacent jurisdictions, I think is an important point. We obviously need to do something about the umbrella legislation so that the Parks Director knows what authority he has or he or she has. But that was a big part of our discussion at the committee meeting, was the consistency and the importance of the enforcement ability to enforce across jurisdictions. We've heard from our Parks Director that the need for banning bikes would be assessed prior to that happening. And it sounded to me as though they're not looking to ban except in exceptional situations. And otherwise, they would like to encourage the use of e-bikes and all kinds of bikes. So I'm inclined to think that consistency, if we could be consistent with our adjacent jurisdictions, that would be helpful to the enforcement.
Thank you. Additional comment? Can I just check in with Councilmember Joe? He hasn't had a chance. And then I'll go to Councilmember Martz.
Thank you. I just wanted to know if the Parks Director did put a restriction on a particular segment of the trail system. Is there an appeal process? In other words, if council decides something, there's an appeal process perhaps to the Superior Court. Is there an appeal process administratively? Would it go to the administration, or would it go to City Council? Was there any discussion about that type of process?
I'm going to throw that one at Rachel. If it's an administrative decision to ban in a certain location, is there a process for administration appeal of a decision by the Parks Director?
There is no formal administrative appeal process in the code for that. The appeal process would be to come to your legislatures and complain that you were unhappy about it, and then, the council clearly has authority to cut parks budget and do other things that would greatly impact the Parks Director. So I imagine that he would reverse decisions if council took great.
Okay.
Okay, and then my follow-up question for the Parks Director would be, what criteria would he use to make a decision for banning on a particular segment of trails? What type of factors would he consider in his decision-making?
Hi, Jeff Watling, said Parks Director. Great question about criteria. I would again go back to intent and recognizing this language, that it would be extremely rare circumstances. So I think these criteria would be, is there a path or a trail that has, is meandering through a congregation space, or a space where, within our parks where we're intending people to gather. And so speed would become that much more of a conflict. There are not too many situations where that exists in our town. Yeah, that's probably the biggest one. Speed and conflict of uses, avoiding that.
Okay, thank you. And one of the criteria we use for, putting a stoplight up or a stop sign would be the number of accidents on a particular segment of road. Would we be keeping those type of stats with either our police department or parks department so that we could kind of make those decisions with a little bit of knowledge and information?
I would say that we could keep those stats. I think it would be based on if we get complaints in certain areas. I think there would be also a collaboration with the Parks Director and the Police Department before that decision typically would be made to understand why or if there had been more of a dangerous or danger factor in that specific area before it would be banned. And we wouldn't enforce something like that unless it was posted and conversations were had as well.
Okay, thank you very much. Appreciate the information.
Thank you, Councilmember Joe. Councilmember Mertz and then Councilmember Hall.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. What a Gordian knot we have. So my primary concern is public safety. These are powerful new technologies in the hands of our most vulnerable and least sophisticated residents, our kids. So by that metric, I think that you've got, on the one hand, you've got the issue of consistent trails at the edges of our city. At the other, you have the idea that Class 1 and Class 2 electric bicycles be treated like other bicycles. And I think tonight at 8:53, if I have to choose between those two options, I think I choose that electric bicycles, Class 1 and Class 2, should be treated like other bicycles. So I believe I'm going to support this amendment this evening, and then if we want to have a discussion about where we regulate bicycles, I just want the simplest regulatory environment for our kids so that as they use these new technologies, they have the ability to be good, safe residents. Thank you.
Councilmember Hall, you took your microphone down?
Yeah, I was going to ask a general question, but then I remembered we're in an amendment right now. So can we actually clarify the amendment language again?
Sure. It's amend the ordinance to delete section 10.48.030 and subsection 10.48.040A regarding Class 1 and 2 electric assisted bicycles.
Okay, thanks.
Any other comments or questions on the amendment? Deputy Council President?
This is probably a silly question, but if we remove this language and there's no other language, are we taking the park director's ability to restrict bicycles everywhere away?
I don't think he has any authority to restrict bicycles anywhere already under the code. How they were restricted in the past, I don't know. There's no code authority for that. So you would be taking away his authority to restrict electric assisted bicycles. He doesn't have any authority to restrict other bicycles.
City Administrator?
It is amazing the number of communities that are having these discussions. I mean, the numbers are astonishing. We are dealing with past practice. The Parks Director, every Parks Director around America has been able to put signs up on parks and trails when there have been specific instances that needed to be addressed. And they haven't required City Council action, haven't required committee action. It has just been an administrative process. The world has gotten more complicated. Those administrative processes are not as reliable and for the circumstances we're facing. And so I think at this point, the Parks Director will continue to put up signs when he thinks there's a problem. As has been mentioned a few times, one of the things that the City Attorney has identified is the need for a parks code within the municipal code. And so as we work on that in the next year or so, we'll be able to address some of this stuff. But again, I think we're at this crossroad of what has been just sort of administrative practice to keep everybody playing okay to becoming something more than that. So I think at this point, if the council wants to take away that language from the ordinance, that's fine. I think the administration, we just need to move on with this. We need to continue to be able to the best of our ability, working with our partners and staff and parks and police, to keep the peace, quite honestly, with all of this. There's lots happening at the state level. There's things happening at the national level. We will be back and talk some more about this. But again, I think this evening, if you take away that specific authority, know that the parks director is going to continue to do his job, and if all of a sudden we have bikes ripping up play fields, he will put up signs there, and we will all visit him in parks director jail if there is a problem with
Well, and just to be clear, it wouldn't be illegal for him to either. I mean, he has authority to regulate parks to some extent. The problem is it would just create enforcement issues for tickets and things like that. So we could put up signs that say, don't ride your bike here, but if there's something that says you won't ride a bike, if we have a law that says you won't ride a bike in areas marked to not ride bikes, if there wasn't some sort of process to establish that, then it becomes a evidentiary issue for trying to pursue those tickets. You could still do it, I guess, as a deterrent, but and I will say that delegating that authority to the parks director is certainly a best practice throughout communities, but it is something that could be easily addressed in the parks code that we are working on.
which we commit to doing, because we are learning from other communities that people are litigious in these matters, and people feel they have God-given rights to operate motorized, non-motorized, partially motorized vehicles, and how dare a city do this. As you know, I took a few days off. I caught up on some reading. There's an article in The Economist magazine about this, and the article said that people were engaging in communities when they were landowners, and now people are engaging in their communities because of e-bikes, that people are more attuned to their rights today with this sort of thing than they were about quiet enjoyment of property. And so this is all changing. Appreciate everybody's work on this. I think at this point, though, Madam Mayor, members of the council, if you'd like to have the amendment be voted on, if it's removed, we will move forward and do our best to regulate this moving forward.
Any other comments or questions? Okay, so I will reread the amendment that has been moved and seconded. Amend the ordinance to delete section 10.48.030 and subsection 10.48.040A regarding class 1 and 2 electric assisted bicycles. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? That passes 6-0. And back to the main motion. Is there any additional council discussion? Okay, seeing none, it's been moved and seconded to adopt ordinance number 3129, adopting chapter 10.48 of the Issaquah Municipal Code to regulate the use of electric assisted bicycles and electric motorcycles, and to adopt ordinance number 3130, amending Chapter 10.34 of the Issaquah Municipal Code, abandoned, unauthorized, and junk motor vehicles to modernize the chapter, authorizing impound without notice for vehicles operated illegally, and authorizing in-person notice of impound and notice by first-class mail. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? That carries unanimously, 6-0. The next item of business on regular business, thank you all tonight. Thank you for that, Jillian. And Chief and Jeff, I'd like to move on to AB 9089, City Council vacancy process, council position number 2. The ask before council tonight is to approve, and I'm going to have City Clerk Tisha Gieser to present this item. Welcome, Tisha.
Thank you. Give me just a moment here. Okay. Feels like a big one to follow. So Tisha Gieser, City Clerk, I'm here to talk to you about the City Council vacancy process for council position number 2. Council position number 2 is looking very forlorn right now. Tonight, I have a couple things to run by you and get your feedback on, and we do have a proposed motion as well. So I'd like to get your feedback on a proposed timeline, like your quick review of the application questions. Would like to know if you have any specific outreach you'd like us to do, and then we'll be talking briefly with you and would like to hear any input you have on the verbal presentations and the question and answer session that are a standard part of our vacancy process. So just as a reminder, you have 90 days to fill the vacancy. Those 90 days would start January 1st, as Councilmember Hall gave notice of his vacancy effective December 31st. There is a process in the City Council Rules of Procedure that covers many aspects of filling a vacancy, and the council did recently amend aspects of that process in May of this year after receiving some feedback and going through the experience with council position number 6 in January and February of last year. Again, we heard from Councilmember Hall at I believe the November 10th council meeting of his plans to resign his seat due to his being appointed to serve in the state legislature. The person who is appointed to fill his position could serve immediately, and they would stay in office until the certification of the 2027 general election. So I put together a proposed timeline, which is on your screen here, for filling the vacancy. A couple of things to note about this timeline. It's more aggressive than usual. This is because with new terms starting for council members, our mayor, we have an important meeting scheduled for the council on January 31st, which is the first city council retreat. Also, typically, the council president makes their appointments in January, and the sort of newly formed standing committees sort of start functioning in February with their new membership. So getting someone on board in January seems that it would offer some value to that new person to be able to relatively seamlessly join the council. So because of that, this is a faster timeline. Of note, the application period has typically been closer to 7 weeks, and in this timeline would be 4. Another note here is that one of the questions I have for you tonight is if you want a special event scheduled as part of this process. Usually that's been a meet and greet or an elected officials information session, which is something that Mayor Pauly provided leadership on last year, and many council members attended, and there was excellent turnout. And that event was offered similar to as is proposed, sort of midway through the vacancy process, maybe a little on the earlier side. Council leadership did share with staff that they would like to see a similar event this year, so I have slotted it in for next Saturday at Gibson Hall. One other thing of note before getting your feedback, I would like to stop and get your feedback on the 4 elements of the process that I need direction on tonight. So we'll be pausing here in a minute to hear from you. But another note here that this schedule uses your regular meetings in January that we'll be sharing with you at the January 5th council meeting when we share the 2026 calendar. The one exception is that January 26th meeting, which I thought might be a useful kind of release valve if you needed some more time to work through this. So with that, I'd appreciate hearing any feedback you have on the proposed timeline.
Any comments? Deputy Council President?
Yeah, just a note, I think a lot of this depends on how many applications we receive, and so if we had a smaller number, it might be possible for us to actually make a decision on January 12th. Again, it depends on the conversation, it depends on who applies, so it's difficult to project the timeline at this point, but I would just like to bring that up, that we could possibly complete our work that particular evening. So,
Councilmember Mertz?
Could we complete our work at the Committee of the Whole? Could we make a decision at the Committee of the Whole?
I don't think there's anything that precludes you from doing that. I'm trying to remember the specific wording that identifies having a question and answer session. There is wording in the rules about that. However, you also can all suspend your rules. So I think that we would maybe want to notice the meeting in such a way, as you know, you typically don't take action at your committee of the whole meeting, so I guess that's the other thing
That's where I was
in my
going with that
mind.
question.
And I think part
we
of it
could notice
as
it as a
well
special
was
meeting.
they're
Yes.
not only answering presenting to you, the public gets to see them. And it gives you time to hear back from the public about who they saw and who they might want to write a letter for recommendation or poke you by email. Council President?
I wasn't.
Oh, sorry, Council Martz?
So how would this process work if, because I share Deputy Council President's concerns about this is going to depend on how many people we see. How would this work if we needed 2 rounds of decision-making? How would this timeline work? Thank you.
And Councilmember Martz, do you mean sort of at that final stage, or do you mean as you're potentially narrowing?
2 stages of narrowing down. The way, if we had a large enough applicant pool, we might decide that we wanted to go from the full applicant pool to a subset of applicant pool. And how would these dates in front of us work in that situation?
Yeah, I think they could work. I think this is pretty closely aligned with what occurred for the position 6 appointment. So you could narrow after the January 12th presentations, you could narrow after the January 20th Q&A, and then you could bring them back on the 26th. We could also add a meeting. The goal tonight is to get sort of a framework for this process, but it wouldn't preclude you from adding a meeting if you get into step 1 or 2 and feel you need more capacity.
Thank you.
Council President?
Thank you. So just on a personal note, I will be gone on the 26th, so I'm hoping that we don't have to do that and I don't have to call in from vacation in nice warm spot. But I will if we need to. Looking at January 12th, considering that is a committee of the whole, just note that the mayor wouldn't be involved in that. And so if there was a need for breaking a tie, that wouldn't be, we never have to break a tie or end up with many 3-3 votes. So that would be something to note. So if there's a way to potentially utilize that meeting as all members rather than committee of the whole, so that we could potentially have that in place, I think that would be good. The other thing I will note is, as I was going through all of this and looking at all of the other cities that have had openings and vacancies, I will note that Redmond does use a different tactic that I wanted everybody to kind of consider, which is they actually bring in applications, have all of those given out to council members, and council members don't rank them, but rather give them a score of 1, 2, or 3, meaning they would be a great candidate, an okay candidate, or not somebody that they would consider. That goes to HR. HR then blindly, without names, utilizes that and narrows the list down at that point. In a certain way, in their case, narrows it down to a maximum of 15 so that they're doing interviews. So I just wanted to point out that there are other ways that if we feel like we had too many members wanting to apply and do applications, that there are other opportunities for some initial narrowing if that was our desire.
I have a question for Rachel. Do we have anything in our rules about participating in executive session remotely? I was at another organization that doesn't allow it, but do we allow it? Okay, great.
And we did it for this council member who was otherwise disposed.
Indisposed. Great. Councilmember Joe, question?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I wanted to talk about the application questions on page 11 of 15 in the presentation, about 3 slides later.
Is there anything else on just the schedule? We're going to go through the rest of the presentation still. We're going to kind of take you through one question at a time.
Okay, so let's talk about the slide that's right there in terms of elected official information session. Last time we had this, we didn't talk about the assistance that you could get for income if you, this job has certain privileges that you can if you have certain privileges, you're able to do it. If you're not working a 9 to 5, 40-hour work week as a server in a restaurant or at a gas station, you don't have the ability to necessarily do this job. So just wondering if at the official information session, we could talk a little bit more specifically about the financial assistance that's available for you for doing this that's in the code.
Thank you.
Certainly.
During that presentation, that sounds great. Councilmember Nichols?
Question on the comment about other cities' processes that Council President brought up. How would that work in practice? Is there time to propose other processes, another process that would allow something like that to
Well,
happen?
it's something we could look into. One thing we haven't done before is use staff resources, so it's hard for me without having staff here to ask them if this is something that just fits in, because cities like Redmond, Bellevue, and Kirkland have many more staff people than we do. So if we're doing collective bargaining or a lot of stuff, that is already on the calendar, it could be hard for them to carve out whatever it is needed to do it, so.
Okay.
The Deputy Council President?
Yeah, just a small thing. Can we call that council applicant information session? Yeah, I think that describes it a little bit better. Thanks.
Any other questions on this proposed timeline slide? I think, Tisha, you're good to move on to your next portion.
Okay, great. And I made note of your feedback. The one significant change I see here is calling that January 12th meeting a special city council meeting, which, because you often have an executive session, we would really want to do anyway. So that was a great change. Okay, so the next piece of feedback I'm hoping to get from you is regarding the application questions. We have a form on the website with these questions. The city council provided a lot of feedback in December of exactly a year from now, almost to the day of 2024. We initially had 10 questions that had been used for the previous vacancy from 2019, and you distilled them down to 6. You provided a lot of feedback to the meeting. Council leadership also reviewed the questions. So I have them in front of you tonight and would like to know if you have any proposed changes to the questions. I'll move you to the next slide here in a minute to review the last 2. And then also if you have any particular outreach, specific outreach you'd like us to do once the form is posted online. Let me move you to the next slide.
And we'll go to Councilmember Joe. Is this the question slide that you wanted to make a comment on?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yes, number 6, I wanted to confer with my co-patriots in crime to see if that adequately described our commitment. 4 to 6 evening meetings per month, regional meetings, and occasional weekend retreats and community engagement opportunities. Looking at my calendar for the last 6 months, I think that the 4 to 6 is accurate. There probably maybe 2 or 3 regional meetings and community engagement opportunities. I don't know if we want to be more specific about those. It's kind of pick your own path for council engagement, if you will. Some of us like to go to as many as we can and try to be everywhere if we can, and others it's not possible because of work or because of other commitments. Just to kind of circle back to my other comment, perhaps the community engagement opportunities could be stressed as a little bit optional, and then in that question, and then also perhaps talk about the equity issue again that I touched on in my earlier comment, somehow in that, and that you do get some assistance if your AMI is low, so that we open the opportunity for as many people as possible so that we can hear all the voices in our community, would be a couple of suggestions for this. Thanks.
Thank you. Other council member comments or questions on these 6 application questions? Council President?
Thank you. Can you go back to the first set of questions there? Just one. Thank you. I think reflecting back on our previous applications, I'm not sure that I got much out of questions 3 and 4, at least as far as differentiating people. I think there is certainly ways that we can have those conversations with people in maybe individual interviews or something like that. So I would potentially be interested in looking at other ways that we could find something that would differentiate people. Again, looked over Redmond's stuff. One thing, there's a few questions they asked that I thought might be useful for us. One said, what unique skills and perspective do you bring to the council member position? Please tell us about your community service experience. And so that's something that allows somebody to reflect on different ways of community service, not just boards and commissions. And so I thought that would be a good way to indicate any other volunteer experience. There was one on what do you believe is the role of local government? And if selected as a council member, how will you ensure you are prepared for the role and responsibilities? So that talks about how they view their ability to prepare. And then if appointed, what do you anticipate will be the most challenging aspect of serving in this capacity for you personally? So some of those things I think speak more to their personal experience on an application than necessarily these questions, which in some ways to me speak to what do you think we want to hear? So I would just ask that we reflect on that. And then referencing kind of what Councilmember Joe said about kind of making sure that we are able to convey all that is required of this, but also all of the benefits. Again, sorry, Redmond's doing this very well, and at the same time, Redmond has a job application provided, and it lists out, let's see where it is. It lists out the roles and responsibilities, including attending regular meetings, serving on regional committees. And so it has a whole list of those, but then it also provides benefits. And, you know, they provide things like medical insurance that we don't, but we could list other things such as the different benefits that we have for different income levels. So I would like to see that as part of our outreach, to be a little bit more effusive about what the application is, what the benefits, and what the requirements are.
Councilmember Hall, or Deputy Council President, and then Councilmember Hall.
And I agree with Council President. I think both question number 3 and question number 4, they're almost too theoretical. I had taken the privilege of rewriting number 4. Let me see if I could find it here. Have you ever had to find a compromise between competing visions or opinions in your family, at work, or within an organization, and how did you find a solution? In other words, tell us very specifically what experiences you've had. I think the Council President was exactly right. We got a lot of responses that were what they thought we would want to hear. And same thing for question number 3. I like some of the questions that Redmond has, and so maybe we can take out question 3 and 4 and get more specific, and I can send you the wording for that question if you want to play with that. So the other thing is on the outreach, you had, I believe, outreach to our social service providers, which absolutely I think we should do, but I'd like to broaden that to our nonprofits. The Chamber, for example, some of our other civic organizations, I think would be great places to find people who would be interested in running for city council. So that would be my suggestion on outreach. Thank you.
Councilmember Hall.
Thanks. I was also thinking about question 3 and 4, and not necessarily that we were getting told necessarily what we wanted to hear, but that, and I think Council President, you would kind of mention this too, like it was kind of hard to distinguish the answers. Like they're very much the same question. And sometimes the answers that we got were too similar. So I would like to see us eliminate one of those questions or combine it into one, in which case I would be comfortable adding an additional question, but like no more than one. I think 6 is already a lot, and now we give them more space to write to, which is helpful. And some of the things, other questions from jurisdictions that you were mentioning too, like I might even expect them to try to address in that first question. So maybe there's a tweak in that first question or something too, just to the second part of that. The last 2 questions, question 5, if I remember right, do we just share the link to the SCA appointments and like what are your kind of interests regionally? Is that right?
And the strategic plan? And I'm trying to remember if there were 2 links that were included
for a
in
previous
total.
question?
But the strategic plan link would have been associated with an earlier question.
I was just wondering if we could have a kind of a comprehensive list of potential appointments. There are quite a few that the city makes that aren't associated with SCA too, and if they're interested in those issue areas, I would be interested in that. So like Cascade comes to mind, EFR comes to mind. Is Raya 8 a SCA thing? So that's direct city, so is the Kokanee Work Group, the Chamber, LTAC, yeah, things like that. So. Yeah. And then question 6, I thought, Councilmember Joe, I thought your question around the specifics in question 6 was interesting. And I remember during the salary commission meetings, they did a survey of the council members, right? Of like average hours that we spend per week. I just wonder if maybe we can pull some of that data. I imagine it would be in the final report, right? So maybe that would help. And those are my thoughts on the questions. Otherwise, I think they're fine. But they're all for you, of course, not for
Any
not for
other
me.
comments? No. Did you get everything you need on that one, City Clerk?
Yes, I heard your input. I would like someone to review the final set of 6 questions. So last year, the council had this conversation, and then I shared what I came up with council leadership, who blessed them.
I think that was a good plan. Share it with council leadership? Okay, great.
All right, and just a note here that we do also ask them to upload a cover letter. It is optional, and letters of interest, so you sometimes will see those as part of the application. One other note here that I will plan to send the council, keep you abreast of how many applications have come in at the halfway mark and then towards the end. Which brings us to the next step, which is the verbal presentations. So the council you changed your rules because you had 12 applicants at this last vacancy, which was great, but it made 10 minutes a person a challenge. So the rules now say that basically I'll inform council leadership of the number of applicants, and they'll let me know the number of minutes they think is reasonable for the verbal presentations, and I will share that with all of the applicants 3 to 5 days prior to the verbal presentations on the 12th. I then do a random drawing of their names and include that order in the agenda materials for the meeting on the 12th. Something that you talked about a bit at times during this process was whether or not to give the applicants any guidance on what to include or how to consider their verbal presentation. So that's really my question here. Is there any guidance? We have not allowed visuals, so that's one question we've gotten occasionally. But again, my only question to you is there any other guidance you'd like them provided?
Council President?
I'm not sure that's really necessary. Oftentimes, as long as we are encouraging applicants to contact council members and reach out, they're going to get that type of information at that point. The only thing I will note is from the last time that we do want their presentation to be right there. Yes, I know you remember that, but I wanted to make sure everybody knew we had heard that feedback from last time.
Councilmember Martz?
I want to suggest maybe something, maybe it's a bad idea, I don't know. This variable length of presentations, can't we just say 5 minutes? 5 minutes is such a wonderful quanta because we sit here all the time and hear 5-minute presentations, right? And we heard them tonight, and we'll hear them at every single council meeting we'll ever have. And so I feel like if somebody comes in and knocks our socks off with a 5-minute presentation, and I've been thinking about this because I'm actually going to be the officiant at my daughter's wedding in May, and I had to fight for 5 minutes because I felt that 3 minutes, you do not have enough time to get an important point across, but 5 minutes you do. So rather than doing a whole thing, I might suggest that we just think about 5.
Any additional comments or questions on this slide? I am not seeing any.
Okay, then I will move along. Just to note that the rules do say that council leadership will make that determination, but I think you were heard. You were heard. All right, the question and answer session. This is the element of the vacancy process that was a little less firmed up at the last vacancy. And so wanted to, well, I think you all experienced that, and so your rules now prompt me to ask you these questions. So first, who should determine the questions that are asked? This would be at the January 20th meeting. The 2 questions listed here are the 2 questions that were determined beforehand. They weren't shared with the applicants. And then if you recall, after these 2 questions were asked and they went in order of how they were seated in the room, and the poor person who answered the question last also answered the next question first. So that's one of my other questions here for you. They were not I'm sorry, I lost my train of thought. A few of you then offered your own questions. I think there were around 3 after these initial 2 were asked. So a couple things. Yes, would you like to delegate who determines these questions? Again, you could delegate that to council leadership. I suppose you could have a discussion about it at another meeting, or you can give me input tonight. And then do you have opinions about whether the questions are provided in advance or whether the questions should be varied among the applicants? Anything you would like to see done differently in terms of the order they're answered? And then the last question is sort of on the format of the room, but it is occurring to me that your January 20th meeting is a regular council meeting. There's not much on the agenda yet. There could be some proclamations or such. So it might be a little harder to accommodate on the floor seating, but if the council feels strongly about that, we'll do what we can to make it happen. So with that, welcome your input.
Who was first? Councilmember Martz and then Councilmember Hall.
I feel strongly that somewhere in the process, we should ask people questions that I haven't had time to think about ahead of time. Because one of the defining characteristics of what will make a successful council member is the ability to think on their feet. I mean, tonight I came in not knowing anything about, well, I shouldn't say not knowing anything, not knowing that there would be a move to strike 030 and 040A, right? But had to parse my thinking on it on the fly. And that happens to us all the time. And if somebody can't do that, they're going to be less effective. So I really, really want to see, one way or the other, questions that people have not had time to go chat GPT ahead of time. Thank you.
Councilmember Hall?
Yeah, 2 things. You know, one of the issues with the Q&A, is it already last year when this happened? Mm-hmm. Oh, no, this year? It was this year? Oh, I have no sense of time right now. When we would ask a question of one person, everyone else would repeat. I mean, it was very difficult for like the last person in the line to answer the question. So I just wonder if we can't shuffle people in and out of the room. And that would add a substantial amount of time to the Q&A session, but it might be valuable to hear a candidate's response without just saying, I echo that. Mm-hmm. And maybe I can pull something else out of nothing to answer this question, which might color how we think about their response, right? So that would be my feedback there. The second is I agree with Councilmember Martz. I think it's a mix, though. It's important to be able to think on your feet and have questions to be able to understand that. But at the same time, we also have all weekend with our packet. And so what, I mean, in the last process for me, what was most important is like, can you really articulate and think clearly about the issues? Because we have access to all this information, right? And can formulate our thoughts on it over a long period of time. So if you don't, then it tells me that maybe you didn't do that kind of due diligence as well. So I think it's a mix, and there's value in having both. Those are my thoughts.
Great. Any other thoughts on the question and answer session? Deputy Council President?
I'll just add that I talked to a Belleville City Council member who sent me a text about their process, and they do have a rule where they narrow the finalists down to 3. And something for us to consider again, because a smaller number lends itself to individual questions. You can tailor them. You've got the time to do that, where, if we have quite a number, then it makes it more difficult, and we get into, let's have a standard question. So at any rate, something for us to consider when we're in executive session, if we want to narrow it down to a maximum of 3, or again, we might decide right there that we want to narrow it down to 1. So that's always a possibility as well. Just a thought, not a suggestion, actually.
Council President?
So I agree with the idea that they should not be provided these questions in advance, because they will have had an earlier option to respond to their application questions, which with a lot of thought, and so this is an alternative form of being able to be responsive on the fly. I recognize that, like, King County's process for many of their various appointments has been to have the other applicants leave the room. And so I can definitely see that benefit as a possibility. If not, I think being able to change the order of responses is important, as any of us who participated in campaign forums understood. And then I think, as far as who determines the questions, I think probably council leadership at that point. And I would even be comfortable at that point in allowing council leadership, depending on the number of applicants, to decide whether or not the same questions were asked of each or not. I don't know how everybody else feels about that. But if we only had 3 folks, then I could see maybe doing individual questions. If we had more on a final round, maybe varying out. But either way, I don't think we should be discussing those potential questions now, because I think we want to keep them quiet. I certainly have some ideas in here, and so I can send that to new leadership, et cetera.
Councilmember Mertz?
I just want to play the historian card, as I always like to do. And as we're talking about the potential in front of us, Stacy was part of a group of 9. Joe Faulkner was part of a group of 7. Nina Milligan was part of a group of 7. Mariah got it easy. She had 5. Victoria had 14. Lindsay had 5. And of course, Kelly had 12. Just to give some context of we're probably not looking at less than 5, if you say historically.
Deputy Council President?
I just really wanted to say I like that idea of having them, the other applicants removed, and maybe if we do it here, like go upstairs, or just so that I watched when Zach was appointed as the state representative, and I thought that was a really good process. And the fact that the 2 other applicants were not there, then they were able to get the same questions, and then you could do an apples to apples kind of comparison. So just putting my thumb on the scale for perhaps doing it that way.
Mayor, if I might, I do have some concerns about our ability to do that here, just with our open meetings requirements. I mean, we might be able to request, but I would also note something else, which is that there is no sound barrier between, even with those glass doors shut, especially if we have anyone participating virtually or have a virtual element to our meetings, they will hear what is said in this room. And so we have some just practical considerations. Do you have anything to
Is that something maybe you could ask the King County Council? Because, yeah, they required us to be sequestered in a different room.
They can request. I don't think they
Oh,
can legally
maybe-
require you. You can request it, and someone would be pretty foolish.
Yeah, I was
to
about to say,
decline.
so maybe I could have been
But-
like, no, and then
Yeah.
wouldn't have got it.
I've had this come up multiple times, and we've made the request, and it was always honored.
Councilmember Joe?
Just a suggestion, perhaps we could coordinate with the court to use the probation office. That way we have at least 2 doors where we can sequester people and perhaps have some sound barrier.
Thank you. Anything else on question and answer session? And City Clerk, do you have everything you need?
So what I heard was a willingness to have the council leadership determine the questions, that they should not be provided in advance. That was what I heard from a slight majority of those who spoke, that council leadership could also determine whether the same questions or unique questions were asked, vary the response time, and explore whether we could request that those who aren't being questioned in that moment go somewhere else in the building.
Great.
Okay.
Is there anything else to add for this slide? Okay, I'm saying head shakes no.
Okay. So the next steps here are to post the application. That will happen on Friday. If you proceed to approve the motion approving the timeline, and then we'll begin outreach. We'll start with that Friday e-news that goes out and use our social media outreach. We'll do some of the direct outreach that I listed in the packet, and we can certainly broaden the outreach to other nonprofit organizations. We'll also begin noticing the December 13th council applicant info session. We've been looking for a good title for that, so thank you. So it doesn't give us a long time frame, but we'll do our best to get the word out about that. And then, as I mentioned, I'll be providing updates at least every 2 weeks on the applications that have come in, so we can get underway. All right, so you've provided.
Have, one question, City
Sure.
Clerk, Council President?
Just one point. I believe last time, council leadership wrote a letter to our city boards and commissions to encourage them specifically to apply. And so I was wondering if that was something that we were interested in this year, and then potentially expanding that out and having that letter, a similar letter, go to many of our nonprofits and human services organizations as a way to encourage those volunteers and members to apply. So any sense of whether or not that would be a useful portion of community feedback?
Just in addition to the outreach that's going to happen with those groups?
Yeah, in addition to
part of it?
whatever social media or pieces that are out there, just a kind of personal, please consider applying, reach out to us if you have any questions, et cetera.
We will share this with the board and commission members. I can also craft something on behalf of the city council. I mean, we can sort of phrase it in that way. City council encourages you to consider. That's another thought. I do realize it's a tight turnaround. All right, that concludes my remarks. If anyone has anything else I didn't cover that you want to weigh in on, certainly feel free. And then there is a proposed very general motion, but just that authorizes me to proceed with the timeline we discussed tonight.
As amended.
Yes, as amended, to recognize that January, there were a number of elements that I received feedback on tonight, so we can call that as amended, yes.
Councilmember Hall?
I was actually going to make the motion, if
Go right
that's
ahead.
all right with the rest of the council, since it's my very last one. I move to approve the process and timeline for filling the 2026 City Council vacancy of position number 2 as amended.
Second?
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any council discussion? I am not seeing any. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? That carries 6-0 unanimously. We're going to move to committee, so thank you very much, City Clerk. We're going to move to committee and regional reports. And Councilmember Nichols, I'm guessing you don't have a report.
Correct, thank you.
Okay, Councilmember Joe.
Thank you. LTAC will be having a special meeting on December 8th. at Tibbetts Manor. Chamber Board Liaison will be meeting with the Chamber Board on December 19th. The Mobility and Infrastructure meeting for December has been canceled, and all Cascade Water Alliance meetings have also been canceled. That concludes my report. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Hall?
No report.
Oh, wow. Councilmember Martz?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Let's see, I don't think I've reported the Services, Safety, and Parks meeting, but all we had was the COM 0182. This was on Tuesday, November 18th. All we had was the e-motorcycle and e-bicycle ordinance that I spoke of earlier. The SCA annual meeting is this Wednesday, December 3rd. Once again, it is here at Pickering Barn in Issaquah. So if you have not registered, there's probably a mechanism to be able to still do that. And then there is an SCA PIC regular meeting on Wednesday, December 10th. It will be held at 7 p.m. virtually, and the agenda has not been set yet. This concludes my report.
Thank you. Deputy Council President?
Thank you, Mayor Pauly. On November 17th, I attended the Regional Transit Committee, and we received the Transit Safety Task Force recommendations with multiple recommendations and actions underway to increase safety on metro buses and bus shelters. We also approved the 2026 Strategic Plan and System Evaluation. The December RTC meeting is canceled. And then on November the 18th, I attended the King County Board of Health. We approved a new configuration of Board of Health membership, which increased Sound Cities Association representatives from 4 to 6. So there will now be 3 voting members and 3 alternates. We also approved the 2026 legislative priorities and discuss possible items for the 2026 work plan. The December Board of Health meeting is canceled. And that concludes my report.
Thank you. Council President?
No report.
I will move to the next item, which is the mayor's report. There will not be an executive session this evening. And tonight, I just wanted to talk about the Rainier Trail Off-Leash Dog Park Bid Award. Council approved the bid for the new Rainier Trail Off-Leash Dog Park located just east of the Issaquah Community Center. Once the former skate park site, this area will be transformed into a fully fenced dog park with small and large dog areas, ADA access, double gated entries, seating, including covered areas, and a concrete entry plaza and drinking fountains. 13 bids were received, with Fury Site Work selected as the lowest bidder, and weather permitting, the project will be completed in early 2026, adding a much-needed recreational space along the Rainier Trail and supporting the city's long-term plan for multiple moderate-sized dog parks throughout Issaquah. Our sustainability and communication staff collaborated to develop a community-facing end-of-the-year climate action report. This report was developed with the community in mind to share stories, major milestones, and actions that we can take in our everyday lives. We accomplished a lot in 2025, including surpassing 800 heat pump installations by Energy Smart Eastside, installing 17 fleet chargers, and planting over 2,800 trees. Our staff will share more with the council in early 2026, including an updated greenhouse gas inventory, highlights from the 2025 report, and likely updates for the 2026 Climate Action Plan. And the last item I have in the mayor's report is just an expression of gratitude to the council members that I have gotten to serve with over the years. I think there's been 14, which makes me feel like I've been here an awfully long time. But also to our professional administrative staff. It has been an absolute pleasure to work with both teams, elected and administrative, over these years, and to get a lot of things done. I feel really good about the work that we've done and excited for our new leadership coming in and new council members coming in, and I wish you all the best, but it has been an honor and a pleasure to serve this community alongside all of you. We're going to move to good of the order. I have a couple of meeting announcements, but does anybody else have something? Councilmember Hall. Council President and then Councilmember Hall.
Okay, so first off, I just wanted to kind of make an announcement and make sure there wasn't any concerns. But with Eastside Fire and Rescue, we are asking so that I can effectively apply for the vice chair position, since Councilmember Hull will be stepping down. He is currently one of the active members. I'm an alternate. We are hoping for this next month to just swap that out, and then there will be the traditional January council leadership choosing who is actually in those spots, et cetera. But just wanted to make sure there was no concerns with that type of swap at that point. And I just wanted to take a moment just to recognize the time that I've served with Councilmember Hall. As starting out, 2020 was a really hard time to run for office and a really hard time to start in office, and just to kind of come into place, not only in a time when we weren't all together, but when the need for service and the needs of the community was so high. Just recognizing how much you really jumped in at that point and really took on that role. And then seeing you continue on with the leadership in Eastside Fire and Rescue has been really inspiring, and I really appreciate what you have done and contributed to that organization. I will note you are always somebody who has come to council very well prepared, maybe over-prepared. You sometimes overthink things after the meeting. And as I said to you earlier, I will miss your last minute questions at the end of a debate. But it really goes to show that you are constantly thinking and constantly looking through the ways of, how can I make sure that everything is to its utmost best? And so I just wanted to say thank you for that time. I've really enjoyed serving with you. Yeah.
Oh, Councilmember Hall, and then Deputy Council President.
I was also going to share some kind of parting remarks. I probably should have shared this earlier during special business, but some comments that I wrote down that I wanted to share. So, of course, as you all know, I had the great privilege of growing up here in Issaquah, and so serving the community in this way has been a very, very special experience for me. Incredibly proud of what we've been able to accomplish over the last 6 years. I just want to start, I want to thank the Issaquah community for putting their trust and confidence in me in 2019 and again in 2023. I want to thank them for staying engaged with us and for just choosing to live, work, and play right here in Issaquah. I am also incredibly grateful to have had an opportunity to work with such dedicated and collaborative leaders like yourselves, and such talented and innovative professionals who choose to work here, who choose to spend their careers in service to the people of Issaquah, which has always just been truly remarkable to me. The spirit that lives inside each city worker that I've ever met, no matter the department or division, has always been that service to community, and it is the most remarkable thing when you see it. So I thank them as well. But that shared commitment, that teamwork that I have felt as a member of the council, with us as policy, with administration as implementation, us coming together, defining problems, doing all the stuff that you talked about, that is a treasured experience that I will not soon forget. I want to, but also, of course, this isn't really goodbye, right? So, right. And I'm honored to continue serving this community now in the state legislature. The only difference is now my Monday evenings will be free. And I joke about that, but honestly, Monday evenings coming down here has become kind of my favorite part of the week, being here in this room with you all. So yeah, it was a really tough decision for me, but it comes from a place of comfort and confidence that this council is in very, very good hands. I am quite happy with our new council members and with the current council, and I'm feeling good about stepping back about where you, and I'm also very excited to see what you get up to next. I'll be watching on YouTube, so don't do anything I wouldn't do. Anyways, thanks for a wonderful 6 years, and here's to many more working together in new ways. Thanks.
Deputy Council President, did you want to say something?
Yes, so, and I hope that I get through this without the need for Kleenex, so, so Mayor Pauly, I wanted to highlight, I thought today, you know, what is the impact of your time in office? And I wanted to talk about a time that seems almost like it is in a different era. But it was 2020, and we were in the midst of COVID, and you were providing wonderful leadership through there. And then George Floyd was murdered by a police officer in Minneapolis. And for days, we had protesters occupying the steps at the police and city administration building. And Mayor Pauly was there every single day, along with the chief of police and city council members, but talking to protesters and listening to the lived experiences of Issaquah residents of color. The city quickly approved a Black Lives Matter march that was led by local civil rights leaders. But Mayor Pauly was there again, the chief of police was there again, the city council was there again, and several hundred community members participated. It was a fantastic, memorable day. And again, your leadership was on full display. Not too long after that, the council received the mayor's proposal for a police accountability, equity, and human services plan, which we quickly approved. And out of that plan, we established an equity board. The council and staff all participated in equity training. Equity was embedded in all city departments. We now adhere to an equity calendar that recognizes and respects over 25 cultural and religious holidays of city employees. We increased the number of behavioral health specialists embedded in the police department. We have a truly diverse police department now, and they are honored for their community engagement. We have a community relations officer, and IPD has one of the best social media accounts in the Puget Sound region. We are known for our transparency. All of this came out of your leadership during that really horrific time in 2020. And this is what we call transformational leadership. And I thank you from the bottom of my heart for what you did, for what you did at that perilous time in our city's history. So thank you so much. And it's not goodbye.
No,
It's
that's
not
beautiful.
goodbye. Yeah.
It's not goodbye.
But thank you. And I didn't think I would get a chance to say this long piece at any other of the celebrations we're going to have. So
No, I'm glad you
wanted
did
to
it.
say it
It's
tonight.
very, very, very kind.
Yeah.
I forget all the stuff that we've done, actually, a lot of time. Councilmember Mertz.
Thank you, thank you, Madam Mayor. I'll keep it brief. You know, there's a lot happens over many years, and you know, passionate people don't always agree, and we're all passionate up here. And sometimes the council has a collegially adversarial relationship with the administration, which I know Mary Lou doesn't like that term, but I'll say it anyhow. But I think leadership, one of the things about leadership is sometimes it's what you do when the cameras aren't on you. And you know, it's easy for, maybe easy for all of us to come up with articulate things to say here, but one of the memories I will always have of Mayor Pauly is when the Muslim Association of Puget Sound was attacked up in Redmond. And Mary Lou was one of the people, she and I and Bill Ramos went up there to support those folks. And there was no cameras on us, there was no, you know, there was nothing political about it. It was just the right thing to do. And so I think leadership is made up of the integrand of all those things over time. So Mary Lou, thank you so much for 30 years of leadership.
It's very kind. Thank you. Anything else? I have a couple of meetings to go through. Okay, just cut it off. Just a reminder for you all, tomorrow night, December 2nd at 6 p.m., the council's having a special social gathering at the Flatiron Grill, seasonal get-together, and the city council does not have any other city council meetings or committee meetings this year. You're one of the first councils to get through all of your work by December 1st, so that's pretty impressive. So there is no executive session this evening, and we are adjourned at 9:55. Thanks.